Thank you very, very much indeed. Let's move to the Energy Markets Committee. We will have the pleasure of welcoming Vanessa Gleason.
Thank you very much. Great. So the Energy Markets Committee, we had some pretty intense discussions over the last few days, and we've actually broken down our thoughts into three separate parts. So the first part was really looking at awareness of the awareness of the overall energy market. As you can imagine, it's in a high sort of state of transition. It's very dynamic at the moment with all of the changes that are coming through due to focus on carbon emissions, new technologies coming into the market as well. What we're finding is because of this lack of general awareness from a government, regulatory, and also a consumer level, some of the choices that we're making now are rather short-termist and are not standing us in good stead for what's coming in the future. So the first sub-bullet there was really about the agility of the markets and exactly that point around what can we do now, which is actually going to have a positive impact in the future. Secondly, some of the pricing mechanisms that we have in place aren't actually accurately reflecting the true cost of some of the fossil fuels that we're using, as opposed to the renewable energy options out there in the market. And also, to me, actually, this is one of the most important points, that energy actually underpins a number of different areas in our economy, so be it economic development, health, transport, and by looking at energy only in a siloed manner, we're actually missing a lot of opportunities more broadly in the market. So the second point here is really focusing more on the regulatory side of energy. So we really need at the moment a balance of flexibility as well as sustainability in the energy market to allow us to get the right sort of energy mix with traditional sources of energy as well as some of the newer renewable type energies and technologies that are coming into the market. But the regulatory system hasn't actually caught up with that need. So the regulation's not fit for purpose. It's not sort of accommodating this disruptive sort of phase that we're in terms of energy markets. Consumers are still in a state of mind, sort of generally speaking, where they see energy as a public service as opposed to a value-added service that they can impact and that they can have an effect on. A lot of the consumers in the market sort of sit back and say, well, that's the role of government. It's a public service. I'll just take what I can get and I'll pay for it, but I don't necessarily have that sort of, I guess, consumer choice and impact over the mix and how it's being delivered. And then it's similar to the other point that I made earlier about externalities. Because we're not looking at energy beyond a discrete industry, we are missing opportunities. So the example that we spoke quite a lot about in our session was electric cars that are coming into the market. That spans across the transport industry and the energy industry. And if we're not looking at opportunities like that in a coordinated way, we're perhaps not going to be delivering those to the best effect and making the most of those opportunities. So the final point here, and this was quite a lot more specific than the other two topics that we spoke about, is access to cleaner, modern energy for basic residential use. And we had some discussion around what this actually means, and it's actually quite shocking and something that was new to us as the committee. There's about 3 billion people in the world at the moment that are using sort of biomass, wood, that sort of fuel for basic cooking and lighting in their own homes. And every year that causes about 3.5 million unnecessary deaths from indoor air pollution, so associated diseases like pneumonia and that sort of thing. And if you compare that to the deaths that are happening over the course of a year with respect to sort of more known diseases, HIV, AIDS, malaria and tuberculosis, and you look at the kind of funding that is channeled into those diseases versus something like this, $25 billion a year go to those diseases. And we know that there are affordable solutions that can actually address this issue for 10% of that cost. So our suggestion, I mean, the reason that we, even though the solutions are known and they are affordable, is that there's issues around regulation, political risk, and also investment opportunities in emerging markets. And so our suggestion that we wish to put forward is that some of the global bodies out there could actually act as facilitators or mediators between all these different groups that need to come together to actually deliver the infrastructure and the regulation and the funding that's required to address this. So it's we think something that needs attention, and that is a relatively sort of easy fix for the world economy, and it's a health issue that energy is really underpinning. Thank you.